We now come to the concluding episode of the origin, history and development of Kathak. We come to the 20th century, which is often called the age of the democratization of Kathak. You have seen that previously there were two major groups of Kathak dancers. One was from the traditional Kathak families who were of the Brahmin caste, and they were male dancers. The women came from the Baiji class, and they were often looked down on, called the wives. And even the Britishers, who called them Nautch girls, did not have much respect for them. They were looked on as entertainers and not artists. In the 20th century, the scene gradually changed. The first lady who took the bold step of learning Kathak came from her Brahmin zamindar family. Her name was Leela Roy, but she took up the name of Madam Manaka and started performing Kathak. She performed not only in India but in Europe extensively. She took her team of dancers, in fact she had formed a dance troupe. She took her team to the Berlin Dance Olympiad in 1936, and there her team came first, and she and her partners Ram Narayan Mishra and Gauri Shankar were awarded gold medals. And this was the first time that Kathak received international acclaim. Then again, the scene was gradually changing in our country. At one time, dance was a taboo for people from established families. And even when the kings patronized the dance form, maybe they had respect for the art, but not so much for the performers. Often the performers were asked to come and give a dance recital at a very short notice. Sometimes even at the middle of the night, they were woken up and asked to dance. So nobody really wanted to take up dance as a profession. But in the beginning of the 20th century, we had great poets and philosophers who promoted the dance form. In fact, one of the greatest persons in the field of dance, although he is hardly ever identified with dance, is Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore, when he went to England, started dancing in parties. And when he danced, he felt his blood surging through his whole body, and it was a wonderful, ecstatic feeling. Then he questioned why men and women in our country who come from the high up strata of society don't dance. He then came to realize that in all societies, when there is a lot of vigor in the society, people dance, and martial dances are very important. He was sad that dance was missing from our society, and he started promoting dance. In fact, in Shantiniketan, he had dance as a very important part of the curriculum. At that time, other important people were also promoting dance. Mahakavi Vallathal Narayan Menon in Kerala was promoting Kathakali dance. Then we have Rukmini Devi Arundel, who discovered the beauties of dance, learnt it herself, set up an institute to teach dance in Tamil Nadu, in Adyar. At this time, Uday Shankar, who had gone to study art in London, also realized the beauty of our dance forms. The early 20th century was also very important because several established dancers from Europe and the United States, such as Anna Pavlova, Ted Shawn, Ruth St. Denis, all came to India and performed. The people of our country soon realized that dance was not just meant for a small gathering. It would be easily presented on the stage for an audience who could buy the tickets and come and see it. This was also a time when the various kings were gradually losing their political supremacy. But before we come to the end of the era of princes and kings, we must discuss the contribution of one very great person in the field of Kathak. He is no other than Raja Chakradhar Singh of Raigarh. Raigarh, which is now a part of modern Chhattisgarh. Raja Chakradhar Singh ruled from 1935 to 1947. Now, unlike Lucknow or Jaipur, Raigarh did not have any dance tradition as such, but it was because of the contribution of Raja Chakradhar Singh that Raigarh has become important in the world of Kathak. Raja Chakradhar Singh, who actually imbibed the love of the arts from his father Bhupdev Singh, was himself a very adept tabla and pakhawaj player. And every year during Ganesh Chaturthi, he invited dancers from all over India. Whoever impressed him was given not only a great deal of money and presents, but was invited to be a guest of the king. In fact, Jailalji of the Jaipur Gharana, Achan Maharaj, Lachu Maharaj, Shambhu Maharaj of the Lucknow Gharana, Sukhdev Maharaj, father of our famous Sitara Devi, they all stayed in Raigarh for quite a few years. Some for maybe 5-6 years, some a little more, some a little less. Now, what was important about Raigarh was that here were several artists with their children residing in the same place. Earlier, the training had been in this way, that a guru of the Jaipur Gharana teaches his son or his disciples, and they are in a small coterie, the Jaipur family. But in Raigarh, what was happening was that gurus of the Lucknow and the Jaipur and the Banaras Gharanas were staying at the same place, and so their disciples could actually learn from the other Gharanas as well. And even if they did not always learn, they could even pick up ideas and movements from the other Gharanas. In Raigarh, the Raja undertook another very important step. He chose young dancers, rather young folk dancers from amongst the very common people of that area and had them trained under the great gurus. And so Kartik Ram, Kalyan Mahant, Firtu Das, Barman Lal, all who came from the local people had the opportunity of being trained by the great stalwarts and becoming great artists. So you did not have to belong to a Kathak family to learn. It was the Raja who encouraged common people to learn. But again, these four came from the very common laboring class. But the 20th century again saw people from highly educated and cultured families coming into the field. How did this happen? Tagore, who was a very well-known figure by the time he started Shantiniketan and later Vishwabharati, invited children of his friends to come and become students of his institution. And he always encouraged them to sing and to dance. I had spoken of Leela Rai, Madam Maneka. In fact, she also came to Shantiniketan and performed in front of Gurudev. And Gauri Shankar of the Jaipur Gharana, who was a member of Madam Maneka's troupe, was appointed as dance teacher in Shantiniketan. In fact, Gauri Shankar was there until Tagore died. By this time, what we see is that more and more people from different classes and what is known as the higher up class in society are coming to learn dance. And gradually, people are no longer looking down on dancers. Because if a person is highly educated academically and comes from a very respectable family, takes up a profession, naturally both the artist and the profession gains in respect. Then again, this was a time when we were all proud to be Indians. In the early 20th century, the nationalistic consciousness had reached a zenith. It was this consciousness that motivated our forefathers to fight for independence. And so all Indians were proud of everything that was Indian, proud of our heritage, proud of our culture. And so instead of looking down, as the British had taught us to, on our dance heritage, we were proud of that heritage. We were proud to see it, to promote it, and even to perform it. Then the European and American dancers had taught various impresarios of our countries, such as Horen Ghosh, to present these art forms commercially. Earlier, the audience had been restricted in the sense that the king or the Nawab used to invite his chosen number of guests. But now, anybody who wanted to could buy a ticket and go and see a performance. And gradually, the awareness of the beauty of these dance forms was spreading. Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, who came to Calcutta after his deposition, did not give up his love of the arts. In fact, he spent most of the money that he used to get from the Britishers. He used to get rupees 12 lakhs in those days, which was a very handsome amount considering the time, 1856 onwards. He spent the majority of that in promoting dance and music. And since he no longer had his courtiers of Lucknow, he used to invite whoever was interested in Calcutta and from other places to come and see the dance and music performances. Then, a little before the independence, a number of dance and music schools came up in Delhi and other metropolitan cities. In Delhi, there was the Bharatiya Kala Kendra, Gandharva Mahavidyalaya. Then there were other major schools in Bombay as well as in what was then Calcutta, Kolkata. Various gurus who were no longer dependent on the princely states started their own institutions where students from all walks of life could come and learn. Then from the independence onwards, the government has been promoting the dance and music forms in a very big way. The Kathak Kendra was set up in Delhi, and soon there were other Kathak Kendras in Jaipur and Lucknow as well. Various state governments also started promoting the arts. And what was more important is that previously the various dance forms were performed and taught within their own region, and Kathak was more or less confined to North India. But after the independence, many Kathak artists moved down south. In Bangalore and Madras, Kathak academies were set up. The government also wanted the people of our country to be acquainted with all the dance forms, and so Kathak was performed throughout India. There were several major artists who started taking dance troupes abroad. I have told you about Madam Manuka. Then there was Ram Gopal, who himself was a Bharatanatyam dancer, but he took a troupe abroad, and in fact he was there performing for several years, and he called it a troupe of Indian dancers. Kathak dancers such as Kumudini Lakhia and Sohan Lal performed in this group. And so Kathak gradually began, we may say, to spread its wings, and people from all over the world came to know about it, to appreciate it, and then to learn it. Now, obviously, if the area in which it is being performed changes, and if the artists also are now different, the style will naturally be affected. There is one more fact that I would like to stress on at this point. It is that now universities teaching fine arts and performing arts came up. In fact, many of the Rajas knew that in any case their palaces and their kingdom would become a part of India. So they volunteered to offer their palaces for universities. That is how the Maharaja Shayaji University of Baroda came in, where Kathak is taught in a major way. That is how the Indira Kala Sangeet Vishwavidyalaya of Khairagar came in, where the Khairagar king offered the palace. And of course, in Vishwabharati, dance was taught, but Kathak not for a very long time. But in Rabindra Bharati University in Kolkata, Kathak is taught. In this part of the episode, we have seen how the artists, the audience, the arena, and even the institutions for teaching Kathak have changed. In the concluding part, we will see what the effects of the change have been as far as the dance style and the dance presentations are concerned. In the first part of this episode, we saw the change that was taking place in the Kathak scene. And we saw that the artists, the audience, and even the arena of the dance was changing. Now, obviously, because of these factors, there was a change in the dance style and in the dance presentations. Now, since any and everybody could learn the dance form, and it was also now a very respectable art form, many more people were coming to learn the dance, and the number of dancers were also increasing. So, many of the gurus started choreographing group numbers, because now they had many more talented dancers to perform in these groups. And again, since the arena was also changing, previously there was one dancer with the audience sitting around the dancer. So they were in close proximity to each other, and the very fine nuances in the facial expressions of the dancer could be seen. But when you have a very large audience, then the people sitting at the back of the audience or at the back of the auditorium cannot see the fine nuances of the dancer. Sometimes they can just about see the face of the dancer. So in order to portray or communicate ideas or stories, you need different characters, different dancers. So from around the middle of the 20th century, group dance presentations, both in the form of dance dramas and individual group items, came into vogue. Another important factor in the change of the audience was that previously, when people were sitting all around, then they were just noticing the dancer. And so what mattered was the dancer's technique, the dancer's movements. You were just looking at the dancer. But when you are seeing from a distance, then the dancer is as if in a frame. So you are here, the stage is there, and you're seeing the whole stage, not just the dancer. Previously, everybody was focusing on the dancer, but now you're looking at the stage. And so the movements of the dancer or the dancers using the space of the stage is important. With it comes in lighting, stage decor, and even costumes. Previously, it was only the technique that was important. Now, the entire presentation is very, very important. And again, when our dancers were going abroad, and when dancers from abroad were coming to India, the comparison was always there as to how to make the stage presentation more and more attractive. There was a change in the music too. Previously, abstract dance was dependent on rhythmic content. The melody was more like a cycle of notes maintaining the tal. But now dancers began to experiment with various musical instruments. The sitar, sarod, flute, a variety of percussion instruments came to be used. Then there were other changes. Many of our dancers who went to the West studied the harmony in their orchestra and in their dance forms. Now, Indian classical dance and music had always stressed the individual artist. Even when there was a duet presentation, it was not a joint effort. It was more or less a competition between two individuals and not a joint production of two persons. But if you have seen Western orchestra, you will see that Sometimes 12 violins are playing together. Sometimes 6 organs are playing together. Sometimes 8 saxophones, and they're not playing at the same time. It is the harmonious blend of the entire music that creates the total effect. Now, many of our dancers were impressed with this idea, and so if Tete Kathak Gadi Khene Dha is performed, we can have one person performing the whole rhythmic sequence, or we can have 5 dancers. One performs Tete, another Kata, another Gadi, another Khene and Dha. So the sound is as if going in a wave from this side to that side, and each dancer contributing makes the complete rhythmic impact. Then again, in group dances, the distance of one dancer from another, their position on the stage also became important. These ideas were not relevant earlier when the dance space was not given any importance. Then in modern India, many new ideas have come up in the dance presentations. Previously, the Abhinaya was based on mythological stories, and the moral concepts were that of good and bad. But now we are dealing with many more complicated topics, like, for instance, pollution, the state of the world, then various problems. For instance, like Pandit Birju Maharaj has created File Katha, the story of a file which goes on in a government department. And so many new ideas, new concepts, new presentations are coming up. This has enriched Kathak, and this has made it more attractive and more acceptable to people from all walks of life all over the world. Today, we have a vast audience. We have many, many dancers, and dance now does not consist of practical training only. A great deal of research is going on, documentation, new ideas, new thoughts, and in fact, we may say that this is the time when Kathak is on its march to glory.